I know it's hard, I know it's complicated, but I promised you've been waiting here forever. I had a much to say, but you're not here with me. No, we're invincible, like fire in the snow. Trust me when I say you are my beautiful world, and I'm feeling it all. We should make an effort. It's true you're so far away, and it's true you don't feel the same. But if you take my hand, we can try and go back. Starting from scratch, I won't let you go. No, I can't let you go, 'cause you're my gravity, and I will never leave. I won't let you go. No, baby, I will not, because I still believe. You're my gravity. You will never be what I expected. Different frequencies, that's why we ain't connected. You know I will make it through. I got nothing to lose but you. It's true you're so far away, and it's true I can feel the same. It's another day, you know you want me to stay, but I go my way. I won't let you go. No, I can't let you go, 'cause you're my gravity, and I will never leave. I won't let you go. No, baby, I will not, because I still believe. You're my gravity. You're my gravity. You're calling out my name, but the echo numbs your pain. Sorry, but more than just a shadow, I'm more than just a man. You don't care how I feel, you don't know how I feel. No, you don't know how. I wash away the sorrow till my heart can beat again. You're my gravity. No, you're my gravity. I will let you go. The only thing that I know, you were my gravity, but now I have to leave. I will let you go. What do you think that I want? What do you think that I want? I know how to breathe into my gravity. 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 I know it's hard, I know it's complicated, but I promised you've been waiting here forever. I had a much to say, but you're not here with me. No, we're invincible, like fire in the snow. Trust me when I say you are my beautiful world, and I'm feeling it all. We should make an effort. It's true you're so far away, and it's true you don't feel the same. But if you take my hand, we can try and go back. Starting from scratch, I won't let you go. No, I can't let you go, 'cause you're my gravity, and I will never leave. I won't let you go. No, baby, I will not.
Warning: the Duracell Cup Series data file you have attempted to access is out of date. Uploading current file now.
It's a brand new car from stem to stern, and it's never been raced at these speeds.
The next gen car is opportunity.
Everything is different with the exception of like the seat, the steering wheel, and your helmet.
Unknown creates excitement.
Talking about my generation.
Good afternoon, race fans, and welcome here as we get set for the 35th race of the 8th season of the NNSCRA Duracell Next Gen Cup Series. This is the race that's going to determine who the Final Four are going to be when we eventually get to Michigan next week. We have one driver that is already locked into the Final Four, 3 drivers still yet to be determined, and we will know who they are at the conclusion of 118 laps here at the North Carolina Speedway in Rockingham. Now, we do have the opportunity for a driver to win their way into the Final Four, which would leave 2 spots available for drivers to point their way in, but this is going to be an interesting one because it is going to be a lengthy one. It's going to be an endurance race, and based off of what we had as far as the fuel numbers here from yesterday's late series race, we are expecting to see these drivers hit pit road a total of 2 times as opposed to the only 1 green flag pit stop that they made in yesterday's late series race. It's kind of cool being able to have the late series and the Cup Series both with the same physics because we're able to take some notes from the previous Saturday race and apply it here to the Sunday race. One thing that we ended up seeing yesterday, a couple of incidents that go against something that I mentioned during majority of this weekend, especially during the pole day qualifying sessions for both lights and Cup, and that was, in my opinion, here out of these 3 races in this round of 8, Rockingham was going to be the racetrack where track position was going to be the most important. You qualified up at the front, you had a better chance of staying at the front. You qualified mid-pack rear of the field, you probably weren't going to be able to work your way up through the field and get a decent run. Well, I was correct in the fact that a number of drivers in the late series race here yesterday, they qualified well, they ended up finishing well. Mike Teller, who eventually went to victory lane, started 7th. Juan Garcia, who finished in 3rd, he started on the outside of the front row. Jack Mitchell, who started 5th, started inside of the top 10. However, there were some drivers that went against what I said and proved that you can actually work your way through the field and get a decent finish if you've got a good long run cars. Some of those drivers included the runner-up finisher Cody Majorek. He started back in 21st place. Jackson Haywood brought it home in 6th. He started in the final row, 29th, and Sean Galligan finished in 7th. He started towards the back as well in 28th place. So there is the possibility for the drivers here today that have qualified mid-pack to the rear of the field, especially since it is a longer distance race than we had yesterday, plenty more time to work with, that we could see drivers that necessarily didn't clock in that well on the qualifying charts here yesterday have an opportunity to get up here late and get a top 10, a top 5, who knows, maybe even a race victory. And we do have a couple of our playoff 8 drivers that are starting towards the rear of the field. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. But getting ready for this race here today, we know that Daniel Voiles is locked into the Final Four. He's the only driver of the remaining playoff contenders that comes into this race worry-free. He knows he will battle for the championship next week. It is an interesting battle just above, just around, and just below the cut line as different drivers have different agendas coming into this one. Let's break it down for you. So we're going to take Daniel Voiles out of the conversation, at least for the moment, since he is locked into the Final Four. Alexander Rowe comes into this race at the top of the point standings, has had the best finishes at both Boston and at Daytona in terms of points accumulated. He currently holds a total of 17 points back to the cut line. That's a pretty decent amount of breathing space for Alexander Rowe. Technically, that would mean he has to just finish inside of the top 25 here today, and he's got a decent shot of advancing his way into the championship four. R.J. Bishop comes into this race second in the points standings. He is 7 points above the fourth in the standings cut line. Now, for R.J. Bishop, the big problem for him is he qualified the furthest back in the field of the playoff contenders, qualifying back in 41st position. He's got a lot of work to do to work his way up at least to mid-pack, if not to start making advances towards the top 10 and the top 5. Again, as we touched on, though, drivers that started towards the back here today, they do have a chance. It's been shown here yesterday they can make forward progress. Now, Daniel Voiles is third in points. He's already locked in, so technically we would say he occupies one of the final 4 positions, which would put the driver on the hot seat coming into this one being Nick Gunther. Gunther comes into this race, the cut line driver, 4th in the standings. He is currently only 1 point behind Daniel Voiles, only 7 points ahead of the nearest driver below him, 5th in the standings. Nick Gunther has 2 things going for him here in this race. Number 1, good qualifying effort. He's going to roll off the grid from the 11th position. The other thing that he has at his advantage, he is one of 2 drivers in this field that has previously won a race here at Rockingham. Gunther was the winner of this event back in season 6, so that prior experience could help him out as he looks to advance into the final 4. Just a little point of note, if you're wondering who that other driver that won here is, it would be Michael Norman. Actually, I'm getting my information wrong. Nick is the defending winner of this race. Michael Norman won this event back in season 6, and he started on the pole position. So a little bit of that prior experience, I guess, coming into play for both the 22 and the 55. Destin Bolin, 4-time winner on the season, sits 5th in the standings. He is 7 points, as we mentioned, behind that 7th in the standings cut line, currently occupied by Nick Gunther. Jack Mitchell, he is 6th in points. We saw him in the lights race here yesterday, had a pretty decent run going in that one. He is a total of 12 points below the 4th in the standings cut line. Reggie Fogelman, I believe he is the next to last lowest driver starting in the field here today, as he'll be rolling off the grid from the 34th position. Reggie comes into this race a total of 22 points below the cut line, so he is definitely in the category where he needs at least a top 10 to be able to advance, and even then it's not guaranteed. If he finishes any lower than 10th position, mathematically it doesn't look like Fogelman will advance into the final 4, and the only driver up to this point that still has a shot of being a repeat champion here in Duracell Next Gen Cup Series competition is Carson Gum. He is sitting 8th of the 8 playoff drivers. More importantly, he has a total of 39 points below the 4th in the standings cut line. That means that for Carson Gum here today, it is a must-win situation. If he does not win, there is no mathematical chance that he'd be able to bypass 4 drivers in the standings to point his way up into the top 4 just on points merit alone. He must win here today. He's starting from the 5th position, so a step in the right direction. We'll see if that good starting track position might find him in victory lane for the 4th time this season, be the biggest win of the season for him, as he would look to advance to yet another championship 4 at Michigan, a chance to be a multi-time champion in Cup Series competition. That's the way that it looks in terms of your 8 playoff contenders. We now turn our attention to the front row, as it's all blue ovals here on row number 1. We mentioned Michael Norman, a former winner of this event. That was 2 seasons ago, starting from the pole position, looking for his 2nd win on the season, and with Michael capturing that pole, if you didn't tune in, he has now got himself at the top statistically of the leaderboard in terms of poles garnered this season, breaking a 4-way tie between himself, Nick Gunther, Jessica Shelton, and Eric Monaco. So Michael Norman with a season-leading 4th pole. That aforementioned Eric Monaco going to line up on his outside. Eric Monaco coming into this race, currently situated in the 19th position in points, a former winner on the season as a rookie, winning the first playoff race at Gateway. But maybe the biggest battle that we're keeping an eye on here in these final two races with Monaco is he is fighting for the Rookie of the Year honor. 1 point between himself and Summer Henson coming into this race. A distant third, 8 points back there for Eric Sadler, who could get back into the conversation if he gets Rookie of the Race here today. We'll keep an eye on that 12 car as well, but been a great battle to watch here down the home stretch between Monaco and Henson. Monaco, of course, the defending Light Series champion. We won't be able to say that at the conclusion of next week's race at Michigan, but also now with his first season in the Cup Series looking to take the Rookie of the Year honorship. Let's go down trackside. Let's get those famous words in motorsports because we got a long one to run here today at Rockingham.
Drivers, start your engines.
Pace car will lead the field off of pit road, 42 cars strong. Bottom right of your screen is your starting lineup with your 8 playoff drivers highlighted in yellow. Again, remember, Daniel Voiles is already locked into the Final Four. The other 7 looking to fill the 3 remaining spots. Rockingham has always had this spot in the playoffs, determining who the Final Four are going to be to run for the championship. 7 previous races have brought about 7 previous winners. As mentioned, only 2 of them in the field here today, Norman and Gunther. We'll talk about those other drivers who ran for organizations that are still in the Cup Series today and might actually be a notebook that drivers of those respective teams can utilize in this race. But here we go. Time to set the Final Four for the championship next week as we're racing at the Rock. Michael Norman leads the first lap. He saw Kyle Matthews slip up off the bottom there through 3 and 4. Opens up the door for Carson Gum to make his way on by for second place. Caleb Fogler with a great effort here this week. Started 7th, already into 3rd as he'll get by Kyle Matthews. Remember, those 2 drivers worked together back in Season 5 to win a championship at S3 Motorsports. But now Caleb Fogler over with Blue Oval Automotive that are still searching for their first victory here of Season 8. Fogler, Fitzwater, and Snyder all with 0s currently in their respective win columns. As Carson Gum with a little slip up there through 1 and 2, going to lose some ground. We saw this in the late series race yesterday. We'll see it during the course of this race as well. Want to really wrap the bottom as best you can. You don't want to get kicked up there to that outside line or else you get freight trained unless we're later on into a run, in which case we've ended up seeing that outside line, that second groove start to get rubbered in. It really can come into play in being able to not only gain positions but maintain if somebody's trying to make a move on you. Speaking of making a move, Nick Gunther makes a move on Carson Gum. That moves him to the highest running playoff driver now into P4. Carson's still trying to find his way to the bottom as Snyder will take advantage. Here comes Bryce Egan. Carson trying to maybe tuck down there in front of his Fortnite Squad Racing teammate Dylan Poteet, who's got his hands full, rear deck lid full of playoff driver Jack Mitchell. Saw a number of our Cup Series drivers in the lights race here yesterday getting some extra track time, including Daniel Voiles, Jack Mitchell, Eric Sadler. Subsequently, we have here today in the Cup Series race, we've got Autumn Brooks, who took part in the lights race here yesterday. She qualified in as a non-charter entry, as did Bryce Egan. As we've got a battle for the lead. Caleb Fogler, I believe he may have sniped that lap away from Michael Norman. He's got the inside advantage here through 1 and 2, and he will move his way to the front. Vogler coming into this race 32nd in the point standings. Looking to get back to victory lane. Multi-time winner here in the Duracell Next Gen Cup Series, but looking for that first victory here of Season 8. Right behind him, Laura Chung, another former winner in this series, but a driver that is yet to find victory lane here in Season 8. Laura Chung coming into this race currently 33rd in points. So both these drivers in about the same neighborhood in terms of how their seasons have gone, and just looking to close out the season on a high note with 2 races left to go. Michael Norman is tucked into the 4th position as Gunther got around him for 3rd. Right there in that camera shot, the only 2 drivers in the field that have formerly won here at this racetrack. Gunther 1 season ago, Michael Norman 2 seasons ago. Other drivers that have won here at this racetrack include these names: Charles Belding, Benny Watson, Jay Jefferson. That was all the way back in Season 1. If I remember correctly, I think it was a last lap pass around the outside through 3 and 4, if I recall correctly. You can also add Andrea Serra into that list of drivers. She was driving the number 99 out of Shadow Cult Racing at the time. And Michael Wayne Robinson went to victory lane. I think it was his 2nd win on the season, if I recall correctly, and he was driving a Dark Horse Mustang for KAB Racing Enterprises that day. So keep an eye on the 99 and the 39 here during the course of this race. See if any of the notes that they were able to take away from previous race victory events roll over here into today's Cup Series race. Dylan Pote trying to put some pressure on Bryce Egan. Ooh, almost got into his right rear, and now watch the 31, trying to get that outside line working there. Carson Gum was able to find a place in line behind his teammate. Carson has dropped back to 7th. But watch the 31 here up on this top side here. He feels that we've rubbered in the track enough. Well, maybe not. He slipped up there and Carson got by him. Guess we haven't had enough cars venture up there to rubber in the track. I thought this might be around the time where we could see Dylan Pote making some forward progress, but now he's going to lose a spot here as well to Jack Mitchell, or is he? Mitchell to his inside down the back straightaway. Pote will battle back on the top here. Bryce Egan also battling on the high side of Carson Gum, but just doesn't look like, looks like through 1 and 2 there might be enough grip up there for the outside line to battle back, but certainly not in 3 and 4. Quentin Moore right now holding down a spot inside of the top 10 in 9th. Anthony McCrory right behind him in the 61. We documented Anthony's success here in the second half of the season. A driver that was outside of the top 30 in the point standings for most of the first half of the season, now finding himself 22nd in points. He's up in the top 5 for most top 10s statistically here this season as well. Trying to hold off Benjamin Snyder. Let's find some more of our playoff drivers, as we've currently got Nick Gunther, Carson Gum, and Jack Mitchell inside of the top 6. Daniel Voiles, who is just out here logging laps, trying to build some momentum for next week. Already locked into the Final Four with his victory a couple of weeks ago at Boston International, right now holding down the 12th position. We mentioned for Alexander Rowe coming into this race with a 17-point buffer between himself and the cut line. He just needs to finish inside the top 25. He's doing a lot better than that. Right now holding down 14th place. So Alexander Rowe, if he continues to run the top 15 all afternoon long, he will more than likely be locking himself into the Final Four on points alone. We mentioned RJ Bishop started this race from the final row, 41st. He has picked up 16 spots since the drop of the green flag, continuing to work his way forward. 25th was where he was last scored. Remember, he had a 7-point cushion between himself and the cut line. That cut line driver, though, was Nick Gunther. We see Gunther running up here towards the front. Jack Mitchell's running up here towards the front. So Bishop needs to keep pushing forward here as this race progresses. For Reggie Fogelman, a couple of cars behind him, he is 27th on the running order. We mentioned he comes into this race 22 points below the cut line. He's got to get himself at least up there into the top 15, if not the top 10. Still a long ways to go for him. And Destin Bolin, who was the first driver below the cut line coming into this race, mired back in 31st position. 4-time winner, currently needs to find himself up there with Nick Gunther in order to be able to get a Final Four spot. RJ Bishop's also running ahead of him, as are Alexander Rowe and Daniel Voyle, so this is not a good situation for Bolin. He's got to get up ahead of at least 2, maybe 3 of those drivers here in the running order. We had Eric Monaco start on the front row. Look at this. Almost 20 laps in, and he's already fallen from 2nd place all the way to 40th. So I don't know exactly what happened to him, maybe on that start, but whatever the case may be, he definitely did not have a short run car, because he has dropped like a stone. His teammate Jesse Turner is actually back here as well, and just up ahead of them you got Ryan Brommer, who went to victory lane last week at Daytona. Brommer currently in 37th place, a multi-time winner on the season with that victory at the World Center of Racing. But we're seeing a number of drivers here that ran well last week at Daytona. They are struggling in the early going here at Rockingham. Mentioned Andrea Serra, a former winner here. There's the car that she drove, Levi McIntyre, right now shotgun on the field. And Northeast Motorsports not looking all that great. 3 of their 4 cars are back here outside the top 30. There's Breton in the 88, Miles in the 25, and just a few cars up ahead of them is the 48 of Austin LaPlante. So it looks like they may have missed the setup entirely as an organization. Back up at the front, we've had a change for 2nd. Gunther has gotten by Laura Chung. He now sets his sights on Caleb Fogler for this race lead. Looking for back-to-back victories here at Rockingham is the driver of the 55. And this has reminded me an awful lot of yesterday's Light Series race, where we were talking about drivers that were on the cut line needing to perform. Well, Juan Garcia went into that race as the cut line driver. He ended up bringing it home solidly inside of the top 5 and advanced his way into the Final Four. Nick Gunther came into this race, the cut line driver. He's up here in the top 5 ever since we dropped the green flag, looking like the exact same case, just 24 hours removed from what Juan Garcia was able to do in the Light Series race. Which, by the way, we want to congratulate our Final Four there. On the light side, we'll see them competing for their championship next week at Michigan. Eli Bright, Juan Garcia, Cody Majorek, and Cam Wright Jr. The 4 drivers that will be competing for the title in 1 week's time. Not only an opportunity to win the championship, to do so for the very first time of a playoff system being implemented in the Light Series, and also, maybe the biggest prize of it all, a coveted chartered ride for Season 9 of Duracell Next Gen Cup Series competition. You gotta wonder, the speculation's gotta be out there for Bright, Garcia, Majorek, or Cam Wright Jr. If they win the championship, what organization do they go to? Do they run for a single car team next season? We're gonna have to wait and find out. Is good battle gonna be for 2nd place? Looks like now that outside line has rubbered in. Laura Chung feels comfortable going up there, trying to take that position away from Gunther. Gunther gonna drive it in deep here through 3 and 4. He'll clear for the spot off the corner. Laura Chung will tuck back in line in that 3rd spot. Good showing here for Fortnite Squad Racing. Both of their race cars in 4th and 5th. Carson Gum and Dylan Poteet. It was 1 season ago that Dylan Poteet was in the Final Four to compete for the championship. We've already documented Carson Gum, the only former champion that is still in the playoffs. But Carson, as we said, is in a must-win situation. Something I'm looking at here in terms of lap times of these drivers, a lot of them have fallen off already, some to almost a 1.5 seconds slower to what they were running in the opening stages of this race. Pit road is going to play a pivotal part in this race. We're going to be having to hit pit road at least twice in this one, especially if we run green from start to finish. Carson Gum has got the top 3 in his sights. Pit road could be where he could leapfrog all of them to maybe pick up this win and make his way into the Final Four. But again, remember, he is in a must-win situation. 2nd, 3rd, that won't cut it. He needs to win here today. He's that far back, 39 points below the cut line. You know, think about Dylan Pote. We mentioned that he was in the Final Four last season. What a difference a season can make, right? Dylan Pote now coming into this race with only one race remaining after this. Currently finding himself in the 39th position in points. That is technically next to last of all the charter drivers that have taken every green flag this season. And obviously there's nothing that Pote can do as far as the situation is concerned right now to be able to better his fortunes this season, but certainly can build some momentum for the offseason in preparation for Season 9. I think that's where a lot of drivers' programs are right now, is Laura Chung, Carson Gum going to work together and freight train the 55, so Chung goes to second, Gum into third, and Pote will now look to take advantage of that freight train and move by Gunther for fourth. Gunther will go from second to fifth in the matter of half a lap, but you know, you talk about Dylan Pote, you can add Jessica Schulten, Keith Batson, Cole Deaver, Kyle Matthews, Austin LaPlante. These are drivers that we know are coming back next season, and they're just looking to get a great run here at Rockingham, a good run next week at Michigan, close out the season on a high note, have some building blocks to be able to springboard off of when we get to Daytona to kick off Season 9 next season. I mean, that's really, I think, where these drivers are right now. They're just looking for some good mojo, some good momentum here to close out Season 8 after what's been really, by and large, a horrible Season 8. This is a really impressive run here by Bryce Egan. He did not run the Trackhouse All-Star car here yesterday. That was Sarah Fogelman behind the wheel. So Bryce Egan is, for the very first time in his career, turning laps under race conditions at this racetrack and doing a great job. Qualified his way in via a non-charter machine. He qualified 15th for this race and right now holding down the 6th position. Jack Mitchell right now in 7th with pole sitter Michael Norman right behind him. The question is right now, is Mitchell doing enough to get himself above the cut line? He came into this race 12 points below the cut line. Gunther is running ahead of him, but right now Gunther and Carson Gum are the only two drivers that are playoff contenders in front of him. He's ahead of Destin Boland. He's ahead of RJ Bishop. He's ahead of Alexander Rowe. And we also have to bear in mind here, let's find out where Daniel Voiles is currently running, because we mentioned when we went down the running order of who was where around the cut line, Voiles is third in points. Okay, what we need to remember is that if Daniel Voiles remains in the top 4 in the point standings at the conclusion of this race, then we go with the 3 highest drivers in the point standings, not named Daniel Voiles. However, if Daniel Voiles falls out of the top 4 in the point standings mathematically here at the conclusion of this race, and right now he's running in the 20th position, we would then go with the top 3 drivers, 1st through 3rd. That would be the final 3 drivers locked in. That is, again, on the chance that Reggie Fogelman or Carson Gum don't win this race. Then they would leapfrog and it would be the top 2 in the point stand. So there are a lot of moving parts and pieces here to the playoff system, specifically in regards here to the Final 4 as to who's going to make it in and who is not. There's going to be a lot of question marks. The only thing that we know for certain is Daniel Voiles is locked in. Everything else is kind of up in the air, and it's really going to depend on the situation of who finishes where. If we end up having a playoff driver win this race, not named Daniel Voiles, that's going to convolute the waters, muddy them up just a little bit as well. So it's a lot of wait and see at this point in time. But with what we're seeing here out of Carson Gum and Nick Gunther and Jack Mitchell, you at least have to have yourself in the conversation, and they've been able to do that so far. Caleb Fogelman's got a lot of company in his rearview mirror as Laura Chung, Carson Gum, Dylan Pote, and Nick Gunther all are there. And if we keep this battling going on here with the top 5, I would have to assume that that's going to bring Bryce Egan and company along with him, as now here comes Fogler to pit road. So this is around the time we had pit stops in the Light Series race as well. Somewhere between 40 to 45 laps is the fuel window for these guys, and Fogler has led 33 laps so far, so he's used up a little bit more fuel than the other drivers. He's going to leapfrog everybody else. I like this call for two reasons. One, you're coming down an empty pit road. We saw a number of drivers have some issues with pit road here yesterday afternoon. Secondly, you're not allowing anybody behind you to be able to take advantage of fresh tires and leapfrog you on the short run. So great call there, bringing the 28 car in as we got more drivers on pit road, including Dylan Poteet, Carson Gum, Laura Chung, Michael Norman. I saw Jack Mitchell back there as well. A lot of our front runners inside of the top 10 coming to pit road on this lap. Interesting, RJ Bishop elected to stay out. Ooh, near contact there between Anthony McCurry and Keith Batson as Quentin Moore, like that Bryce Egan rather, leads this group down pit lane. Moore, Snyder, Casey Hoyt, Keith Batson in this group. Let's see if our playoff drivers are in this lap. Yep, there's Alexander Rowe. There's RJ Bishop. Ooh, little muscling going on there between Kyle Matthews and Autumn Brooks. Destin Bolin, another playoff driver on pit road. I think that's all of our playoff drivers pitting here now. Let's see who we're still waiting on. It might be the 99 of Levi McIntyre, the 03 of Charles Sanford. Sanford's coming in this time. Brommer's coming in this time. McIntyre's going to go yet another lap. So Levi McIntyre, who we saw kind of riding towards the rear of the field when we were checked in there towards the tail end of the pack, looks like he's running some strategy here. Somebody else stayed out an extra lap as well. Who was that? Let's see if we can find them. Well, I thought they were. Maybe they led the lap on pit road here as Levi was scored in second. Looks like Kyler Sustre might have stayed out an extra lap and led that lap on pit road. Levi will now come to pit lane this time, and we're going to have to figure out just exactly who does the lead cycle around to now. I'd be surprised if it's not the 28 of Caleb Fogler, but let's double check on that. There is Fogler. Poteet, Chung, that might be a change for second place. I think it's going to be Caleb Fogler, and look how the field spread out here. Fogler's going to maybe encounter some traffic in the next couple of laps. Jessica Schulten, Kyle Matthews just up ahead. And those are two drivers out of S3 Motorsports that qualified pretty well here this afternoon. Just rolled off 14th. Kyle Matthews started this race from 3rd. And right now they're being scored in 41st and 42nd. Levi McIntyre just now completing up his service. He's going to merge out here, not that far ahead of the race leader, and Destin Bolin did not have a good pit stop, as right now scoring has him in 40th place. So Destin is definitely in danger right now with his positioning of not advancing into the final four. So pit stop cycle complete. Caleb Fogler back to the point. Dylan Poteet got by Laura Chung into second. Chung falls to third. Nick Gunther right now in the 4th position, and Carson Gum still in the top 5 in 5th. Bryce Egan currently 6th. Jack Mitchell is 7th. 8th is Quentin Moore. 9th place Nathan Ormond. We haven't mentioned his name at all today. He's right ahead of his teammate Michael Norman. That's 9th and 10th. 11th place right now would be Cole Deaver. Benjamin Snyder is 12th. Daniel Voiles just doing what he's got to do here today, 13th. Kyler Sustre, who was one of the last onto pit road, right now in 14th, so he'd have the fresher tires of some of these guys in front of him. Keith Batson currently is in 15th place. Anthony McCurry 16th. 17th for Casey Hoyt. 18th place Joshua Osborne. 19th is Eric Sadler. And Connor Breton is now up to 20th. Remember, we saw him back around 39th, 40th, 41st. Big net gain there on this pit stop cycle for the Vitamin Water Chevrolet. Alexander Rowe is going to cycle to 22nd. So we saw him up inside the top 15 earlier He's now fallen outside of the top 20. Again, as long as he finishes inside the top 25, he should be safe, but he's perilously close to that cut line here with a lot of drivers breathing down his neck. RJ Bishop right now in 26th place after starting 41st. Had a good short run car at the beginning of this race. Let's see if he can find something here at the beginning of this run after the pit stop cycle. Reggie Fogelman, I feel like he's still in trouble. He was below the cut line coming to this race, currently scored in 28th, and then you got to go all the way back here to we saw him before. Destin Bolin in that 0-2, 39th is where he is currently scored. This is not a good situation for the fourth-time winner out of Young Motorsports. Top three have closed up on each other here. Laura Chung and Dylan Poteet. Chung got back around the 31, but they've been drafting with each other and have caught back up to Fogler. So three-car fight for the top position. Side by side for fourth place is Nick Gunther. Going to get bypassed by Carson Gum. If these two can maybe work together, they could make it a five-car pack up here for the race lead. And it looks like, I thought that they were closing in on traffic at the tail end of the field. This traffic has all been able to kind of catch up to the pack in front of them, and they've actually opened up some distance between themselves and the leader. So not as quick a threat of traffic as I thought there was going to be. And again, we continue to run these laps under green. It may end up coming to fruition that these drivers up at the front are going to have to deal with drivers at the tail end of the pack. Something I wanted to check in on here as far as our rookie class is concerned. You got Bryce Egan right now running the highest of the rookies. But I wanted to see where Eric Sadler, Eric Monaco, and Summer Henson currently would be. I will also look for the 33 of Daniel Bouchard in their relation. So Eric Sadler right now is in 19th. That is the second highest rookie currently in this race. So he would gain some points on Eric Monaco and Summer Henson. Where is Bouchard? Well, there is Monaco, and there is Bouchard right behind him. So if Daniel Bouchard can get by the 45, that is 2 points that Sadler would gain on Monaco, 3 points he would gain on Summer Henson, which would put him only, 6 points behind Monaco and 4 points, I think, behind Summer Henson for Rookie of the Year. Summer Henson is right now running the lowest of the rookies in the 37th position. So Eric Sadler, don't count him out. We talk about this two-horse race between Eric Monaco and Summer Henson, and Eric Sadler has slowly and quietly been getting a number of Rookie of the Race awards here and has been closing up the gap and could have a shot at the Rookie of the Year honor next week at Michigan. Kyler Sustre going to make a pass here on Daniel Voiles. I don't think Daniel Voiles is in any hurry to be aggressive here in this race. He's just kind of letting the race come to him. Nathan Norman's on the move. Not only did he pull away from Michael Norman, he reeled in Bryce Egan and bypassed him, moving into the 8th spot. If you're looking for one of the best long-run cars right now, I think this Nike Ford Mustang might be in that conversation. Nathan's a two-time winner on the season. Early on this year at Manassas, and then in the regular season finale at Auto Club. Keep an eye on him. Carson Gum has managed to catch up to this top three now. Nick Gunther trying to do the same. We talked about this in the Light Series race yesterday. You'll see a lot of times as they come off of turn 2, you'll see the drivers kind of run low, run in that middle lane. Why are they doing that? Well, because they're trying to defend against any driver getting a run on them off of turn 2 and trying to put their nose to the left rear quarter panel. We've seen it so far here today. That outside line works over in 1 and 2, but the low line is king over in 3 and 4. If you let somebody to your inside down the back straightaway here through Thunder Alley, you're almost guaranteed giving up a spot to them through 3 and 4 and having to try and fight back and get the spot over in 1 and 2. And there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to cross them back over. more than halfway home in this race. Got about 20 laps before we'll start to see drivers hit pit road again. And that should be their final pit stop. Just looking at it right now, even drivers like Caleb Fogler, who came into pit road at the completion of lap 40, should be able to make it the rest of the way if he's splitting this race technically into thirds. If he pits on lap 80, he should be 2 laps to the good, provided they get that thing full of fuel. Caleb Fogler's been a lap-leading machine here today as well. Remember, he started this race from 7th. We saw yesterday, when Juan Garcia led the most laps, he did it from the outside of the front row. So Caleb Fogler had to pass quite a few cars in the early going to be able to get to the front, and since then stay at the front. He is 50 laps led so far into this race. Correction, 51 on that previous passing of the start-finish line. And right now, if he leads another 8 laps, he will have locked up the bonus point for most laps led here today. Only a handful of other drivers have led, and it's all, for the most part, been because of the cycle of green flag pit stops. Michael Norman led the opening 5 laps from the pole. Kyler Sustre has led 2 laps. And then Levi McIntyre, Laura Chung, and Bryce Egan have led 1 lap each. You want to know what's interesting in that list of drivers I just gave you that have led laps? None of them have a gold playoff spoiler. No playoff driver has been able to get a lap-led bonus point here this afternoon. And they don't seem like much, but I guarantee you those bonus points can be crucial when it comes to a conversation of, are you above the cut line or just below it? Battle for second. Carson Gum going to have that inside line advantage here through 3 and 4 on Laura Chung. And he'll move his way into the runner-up spot. Again, must-win situation for Carson Gum. And if you're Nick Gunther right now, you came into this race the cut line driver. You know that if the 19 wins, he leapfrogs you. But does Gunther feel comfortable enough with where he's at that he could maybe nestle into the 3rd or 4th seed behind Voiles and Carson Gum? This is really impressive out of the driver of the Fastenal Toyota Camry, because he was the only driver that came into this race must-win situation. He's been up in the top 5 all day, qualified 5th. And he is there on the back bumper of Caleb Fogler. Can he set him up? Can he make the pass? Can he use pit road to his advantage here? As Laura Chung tried to defend against Nick Gunther, and there was near contact that sent Laura Chung up the track there through 3 and 4. Gunther gonna try and clear as they make their way down here into 1 and 2. Might not be able to complete this pass. I think Chung might be able to get the momentum back here on the top side. Now the question is, can she clear Gunther before they get to 3? Or can Gunther battle back? Gunther will battle back to the inside. Chung way up the racetrack here. I don't think this battle's over. Chung still alongside. Might have the advantage down here into 1. Ooh, had to lift a bit for the entry. Can she pick up the throttle through the center and get back alongside the passenger door of the 55? Looks like she can. Great battling here at Rockingham. Both lanes working. Oh, but had to lift on entry to Chung. That's going to give the spot to Gunther, and now Poteet will look to move by as well. That little breathing of the throttle, that momentum shift helped the 55. Look at Carson Gum to the top side here. Almost into the right rear quarter panel of Caleb Fogler. This is for the race lead. He's not clear. Can he stay alongside the 28 here through 3 and 4? Oh, he's trying. Fogler, I think, has got him cleared back. Carson's going to try that top line again here in 1 and 2. Got to pinch the 28 down, rotate through the center. Oh, that's not a great exit right there. He had to lift a bit there through the center of 1 and 2. I don't think he's going to complete this pass. And now the problem for Carson Gum is you're trapped up on the top side. Here comes Nick Gunther to the bottom. So in the attempt to go for the lead, he's going to pay the price, fall back to at least third. Here's Laura Chung trying to the inside for fourth place. Carson might be able to battle back here on the top side and hang on to third, but now Gunther moves into the runner-up spot. Yeah, Carson clears back, so he'll move back to third place, but that could have been costly. Oh, whoa, he didn't dive it to the inside there. Laura Chung forced the nose back in, and now Carson's going to start free-falling once again. So there it is. There's the price you pay. It's the risk versus reward. You try going for the race lead, it doesn't work out. Next thing you know, you've been dropped from second back to fifth, maybe worse, is look who else has entered up into this conversation. Quentin Moore in the 89, that bright yellow Loves Travel Stop Chevrolet out of Ann Atwood Motorsports, is now up in this lead group. And if these guys keep racing, you got Nathan Orman back there, Jack Mitchell, they've still got a shot of getting up into this pack. Boy, look at Nick Gunther all over the back bumper, the 28 of Caleb Vogler. Vogler is only about maybe 6 laps away from it. He's going to have to come to pit road. Let's go on board with the Mimnikyu 787B Mazda out of Garage 55 and listen to how you have to finesse it around Rockingham, especially this late into a run. It feels like with that onboard, Nick Gunther might be faster than Caleb Vogler. The problem is Vogler's got the track position and he's forcing Nick Gunther to try something different. Vogler will not give up the bottom. We saw Carson Gum. He made that risky move. He tried the top side. It didn't pay off. So Gunther right now, he's in a predicament. He'd love to jump to the outside of Vogler, try and see if he can pass him for this race lead. But if it doesn't work, look at the line of cars behind that would be willing to shuffle him out and drop him from current second back to, where's Jack Mitchell right now? 8th place. So it's that risk versus reward. Is Gunther trying to get a run here through the center of the corner? Ooh, is he going to get to the left rear? Vogler might have left just enough room open, and Gunther's going to stick his nose in there. Look at Quentin Moore ripping the top side in the 89. Vogler's going to go back to the lead. Quentin Moore's going to battle Gunther for second. That outside line through 1 and 2 is so strong. Oh, Vogler slipped up off the bottom though. Here comes Gunther back for the race lead. Oh, trying to clear him before they even get to turn 1. He might be able to do so. Or will Vogler battle back? No, Gunther is clear. Nick Gunther to the point. Nick Gunther is the only driver in this round of 8 that has no victories this season. He was one of 2 drivers, the other being Levi McIntyre, that pointed his way into the playoffs with a 0 in the win column. We documented it. He's the defending winner of this race from 1 season ago, and now, closing in on 30 laps remaining, he is the new leader out in front. Look at how Caleb Vogler goes from the top spot all the way back now to the 8th position, as he's been freight trained by everyone that was in this lead pack. And the problem for Caleb Vogler now is you've lost the track position, and you're going to probably have to be one of the first runs to start this pit road cycle since you did it back during the first run. Speaking of pit road, here comes some drivers to pit lane right now. The Fortnite Squad Racing Toyotas are in. Of Poteet and Gum, Mitchell is in. Laura Chung, Caleb Fogler. Keep an eye on the 31 and the 19 where they cycle around to. They were second and third when they came to pit road. Is this undercut going to allow them to leapfrog the 55 when all is said and done? Gunther's coming in this time. He's not going to give them any more than a one-lap advantage. Nathan Ormond, very aggressive on entry, is in. More drivers pitting, some drivers running long, staying out. Voiles is in, Bishop is in. Here comes Alexander Rowe. Reggie Fogelman stays out an extra lap. Destin Bolin looks like he's going to run a little longer here. These drivers might be hoping for a caution to save them. We've been green since the start. Quentin Moore, Bryce Egan, Kyler Sustre, a couple of Haas Racing Toyotas are in. More pitting from the race lead. Benjamin Snyder is in. I want to move up here to the 31 of Dylan Poteet. See where he's going to be in relation to the 55 of Gunther. There's the 55 leaving. Poteet was able to leapfrog him. But now it's going to be the question, those one lap fresher tires, will they pay dividends for Nick Gunther? Pit stop cycles complete. Bryce Egan, Kyler Sustre, Quentin Moore, that group we saw hit pit lane. They were the last drivers that we were waiting on. This is where the lead's going to cycle around to, and it looks like it's going to be Dylan Poteet out in front. He's going to have some traffic right here in front of him in the form of James Qualls, and I don't know if that's going to hold Poteet up or if that's going to help him to have someone to draft with. He's going to try and get by James Qualls here as quickly as possible, maybe put a machine between himself and Gunther. Gunther's got his hands full. That's going to be Nathan Ormond back there that cycled into third, and now look at the traffic here that Gunther's going to have to traverse. Jessica Schulten going to merge out in front of him. Summer Henson's back there as well. Autumn Brooks, Charles Samper just ahead of the race leader Dylan Poteet. Poteet crosses the line. He's to the top of the board as we're approaching 30 laps to go. Gunther into second. Having to deal with a lot of traffic here. Nathan Ormond right now in third as he's to the outside of Summer Henson. Here comes Carson Gum with a big run. He's fourth, looking for third on Ormond. Jack Mitchell right now in the fifth position as the top five having to deal with a lot of traffic here in the closing stages. Laura Chung right now is in sixth. Caleb Fogler is dropped back to seventh. His teammate Benjamin Snyder is eighth. Ninth place is going to be Bryce Egan, and your top 10 completed with Kyler Sustre. Caution is out. I didn't even notice the yellow flag was out. They're all slowed here on the back straightaway, picking up the pace car. Yellow flag waves. It took us 86 laps for the first caution to wave here this afternoon. That is going to save a bunch of drivers that were going to go a lap down. It comes out a little too late for drivers like Qualls and McIntyre and Shelton. But Charles Sanford, Cody Lamas, Reggie Fogelman are looking at this guy saying thank you because they've got a shot now of improving their current positioning. Everyone's good to make it on fuel, and if I'm not mistaken, we're going to have a lot of lap cars on the inside line making things crazy for the lead lap cars. Let's see if we can figure out what even brought this yellow flag out. I didn't see any smoke, didn't see any skid marks. I wasn't paying attention to the flag stand. I didn't see the caution waving at any point in time. It was only until I saw the leaders start slowing on the back straightaway that I realized we were under yellow, and it appears that it might be the 87 of Ryan Brommer. This was in relation to Kyle Matthews coming off of pit road. As he comes up, Brommer gets him in the right rear quarter panel. It sends him sideways, and that was enough for race officials to throw the yellow and bunch everybody back up once again. It's that's not only the first caution of the afternoon, that's our first caution of the weekend. We went green the entirety of the lights race. It was looking like we were going to go green the entirety of the Cup race, but not going to be the case. And now, let's figure out where the playoff drivers currently are going to be restarting here. So Gunther will start the highest of the playoff drivers in second. Carson Gum is going to be third. Again, must-win situation for him. You got to go a long ways down before you find the next playoff contender, which is R.J. Bishop in the 22nd position. Daniel Voiles is 23rd. Alexander Rowe is 25th. Remember we said top 25 is what he needs to advance. He's there, but man, it is razor's edge for him. And then Reggie Fogelman remains on the lead lap. This caution saved him from going a lap down, but he's back in 32nd. He needs to find something here, and with the situation he had coming into this race, 22 points below the cut line, I don't see him fighting his way up into the top 15, top 10 here by the end of the day. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. We can't count him out yet, but the track's tough enough to make passes at. You spend 5 laps setting up a pass for an attempt to pass on 1 lap. I don't know. We'll see, especially with these lap cars on the inside line here, including Levi McIntyre, James Qualls, Jessica Shelton, Summer Henson, Matt Haas, Autumn Brooks, Destin Bolin, Kyle Matthews, and Ryan Brommer. To my knowledge, all these drivers are up to speed. We saw minimal contact there for Ryan Brommer. I think he's still going to be up to speed. Oh, man. This is going to be interesting. The field's going to be really bunched up here now. And who knows, we may not be done with cautions either. We may see yet another caution here before the conclusion of this race. But you go back to that 1-lap undercut for Dylan Poteet. That was a difference maker in him being the control car on this restart instead of Nick Gunther. Let's see what kind of a launch he's going to be able to get. The drivers to his inside all up to speed, so you know they're going to be fighting to get back onto the tail end lead lap just in case a future caution comes out. I think it's safe to say right now Destin Bolin would fall into an elimination spot 1 lap down in 40th place. Has green flag in the air. Good launch for Poteet. Can he clear the 99? Yes, he can. Poteet's going to start pulling away with the top position. Mitchell up the track. I think he's in the wall there through 1 and 2. And he's going to start drifting back from 5th. How far back this drops him, I'm not sure. He's back around the 10th, 11th spot now with Quentin Moore and company. Could be a costly mistake there on the restart as Mitchell's trying to point his way up into the Final 4. Carson Gum still trapped on that outside line. Same for Nick Gunther. Same for Nathan Orman. Dylan Poteet's now gotten kicked up to the outside line. Levi McIntyre got by, so he's back on the lead lap. Jessica Shelton now fighting to the bottom on him. For the 31, he can let these drivers by if he so chooses. The driver he's got to first start worrying about would be the 55 of Nick Gunther. And look at Caleb Fogler using the inside to his advantage. He just got by Carson Gum for 3rd. He cycled to 7th after he ended up losing the race lead to Nick Gunther. And now trying to get those spots back with the help of the lap traffic. He's now in 3rd place. He's looking to the left rear quarter panel of Nick Gunther as they make their way down here into the entrance of turn 1. Carson Gum is dropping back. Remember, he was must-win situation. This is not good for him as he's getting freight trained on that outside line. Shelton putting the pressure here on Poteet. If I'm Poteet, I'm letting some of these drivers on by. I know you want to have the cushion of lap cars between yourself and 2nd place, but you can't let the lap cars determine what line you're running either. He's got about 5 cars back to Nick Gunther, who's been able to hang on to 2nd. He lets Shelton by. He lets Matt Haas by. Here comes Summer Henson. Poteet's got to find a place in line here because Gunther is following. He's tailing this pack of lap-down cars on that inside line. He wants to be part of that freight train. Poteet still trapped up there, and there's the 55 of Nick Gunther closing in. Here he comes, looking for the race lead. We're going to be side by side for the top spot here going into one. No, we're not even going to be that. Gunther's going to blow the doors off of Poteet. He'll clear for the top spot. Poteet now under fire for second. Caleb Fogler trying to get by. Nathan Orman in the fourth spot. He'll now move to third. That lap traffic hurt Dylan Poteet, kicked him to the top, and he could never get back to the bottom. Now, if you're Nick Gunther, you got to follow the same rule of thumb. You cannot come off that yellow line. If you have any of the lap cars move you up off the bottom, you know for certain the 28 of Caleb Fogler, the 23 of Nathan Ormond, they're going to be more than willing to follow the lap cars in freight training you to be able to get to the points. Kyler Sustre is up here in the conversation as well. Quentin Moore, that's fourth and fifth. You know, we talked about drivers that are still looking for that first victory on the season. There's a bunch of them here in this conversation. Gunther, Fogler, Sustre, Moore, all looking for that first win of Season 8. James Qualls putting the pressure here on Gunther. He wants his lap back. Less than 20 to go here at Rockingham. Nick Gunther still doing a great job of keeping it pinned down to the bottom. Qualls searching around, trying to find a way by to get his lap back. I think we had a total of 8 drivers that were a lap down. When that caution came out, we now only have 3 drivers a lap down. Qualls, Bolin, and Brommers. So a number of those guys there, McIntyre, Shelton, Haas, Henson, Brooks, and Matthews did a good job of getting by the leader, whether it was Dylan Poteet or Nick Gunther, to at least put themselves back on the tail end of the lead lap. If they were to catch a yellow, they would then cycle around to the tail end of the field. Got to at least give yourself a shot. You got to at least control what you can control. But look how far back the Fortnite Squad Racing cars have fallen. Carson Gumbs back here now in 9th. Poteet's fallen to 10th. He's going to lose 11th to Norman. He might lose 12th to Benjamin Snyder. These are 2 drivers that were up in the top 5 for most of the day. And on the flip side, how about a couple of drivers have some really good runs here? Anthony McCurry, another solid outing in 8th, just ahead of him. How about Cole Deaver in 7th? He's kind of the shining beacon right now for S3 Motorsports in this race, as Charles Sanford currently mired back in 21st. Kyle Matthews, Jessica Shelton just got their laps back. They're respectively scored 35th and 39th. Gunther's been able to open up a gap between himself and James Qualls. I don't know if he's getting a little bit of a tow there off of the 09. You got to certainly think that running in the wake of Matthew Chevrolet, that's putting dirty air on the nose and got to be hurting his exit. But about 3 car lengths now back to Qualls, another car length and a half back to Caleb Fogler. So Gunther's got himself a nice little spot right now to be able to ride, maybe save some tire, as we are fast approaching the 10 lap to go mark. Well, Gunther did not come into this race in a must-win situation, but he did come into this race in a must-perform situation. Came in the cut line driver, 4th in the standings. If he wins, doesn't matter. He's locked into the Final 4 to compete for the championship, joining Daniel Voiles. Right now, the question would be, who would the other 2 drivers be? If we check in on RJ Bishop, last time by, he was scored in 16th, which is a huge improvement from where he's been most of the day. He's been mired back around the 26th spot. Right now, he's trapped up on the outside line, though. Might start falling back. Can't give up too many spots if you're the driver of the 98. Right now, with where he's at, I think he's in a good spot to advance into the Final 4. And Alexander Rowe, mentioned he needs a top 25 at least to advance. He's right now in 29th. Just got taken 3 wide there by Daniel Voiles and Keith Batson. Where has he crossed the stripe this time? 33rd. I think he's below the cut line. Then again, Jack Mitchell He's currently back here in 30th, so he wouldn't gain a whole lot of ground on Alexander Rowe. Let's check in on Bishop again. He's been able to get to the inside. He's in 18th. Well, nope, here comes Bryce Egan to his inside. I mean, I guess the good news if you're RJ Bishop is you're more than 10 positions, more than 11 positions ahead of Alexander Rowe, so he'd be ahead of him in points. But I don't know, Alexander Rowe being back in 33rd, I'm not seeing anybody that would be able to capitalize on the misfortune he's having right now. Mitchell's running back there. Destin Boland's on the tail end of the lead. Actually, no, he's a lap down in 41st. Carson Gumb's out of the conversation. Reggie Fogelman's out of the conversation. I think right now, despite the fact that he's back outside the top 30, Alexander Rowe might still be safe to advance. RJ Bishop looks like he's in a great spot to point his way in. Qualls was able to close back up here on Nick Gunther. But look at the gap that Gunther and Qualls both have been able to build on Caleb Vogler. Last time by, scoring said 1.4 seconds between first and second place, with the lap car between to boot. What a time to get your first win of Season 8 if Gunther's able to close this out. He won this race 1 season ago, looking for back-to-back here at Rockingham, and looking for his first win of Season 8 to lock him into the Final Four to compete for the championship. Could be a good battle for second place here. Nathan Orman is all over the back bumper of Caleb Vogler. Quentin Moore, Kyler Sustre right there as well. Second, third, fourth, fifth, along with the lap car of Destin Boland. But this battle taking place over a second and a half behind the race leader. Gunther is closing up on those drivers that had been able to race their way back onto the tail end of the lead lap. I don't know if he wants to close up on them too much here. We saw how racing with the lap traffic affected Dylan Poteet. Just double checking here on scoring. RJ Bishop has now slotted himself into 20th. Alexander Rowe still back in 33rd place. Just to paint a picture for you, that is the last car running of the tail end of the lead pack, not counting the cars up here in front of Nick Gunther that were a lap down and raced their way back onto the tail end of the lead lap. So Rowe's in trouble. Jack Mitchell's back in 31st. We've already documented Destin Boland in 41st place. In terms of momentum, Rowe may be able to point his way in, but he will not have good momentum going into Michigan next week. As Nick Gunther just trying to tick these laps away as quickly as possible. This next time by will be 4 laps to go. Let's check back in here with our Championship 4 hopefuls. Where is Daniel Voiles currently at? Right now in 26, but again, by virtue of the victory at Boston, he's locked in. RJ Bishop, I think I saw him up ahead here. Yep, he was 20th. He's worked his way back up on the inside line to 16th. So he is in great shape to point his way into the Final Four. And Alexander Rowe, here's what I was talking about. This is the tail end of the pack. Back here with Dylan Young and Zachary Fitzwater, Jesse Turner. The bad news is he's 31st on the board. The good news is the car he's battling, Jack Mitchell, is just ahead of him in 29th. Reggie Fogelman, who was in a borderline must-win situation, needed a top 15, top 10 run to point his way in, is 27th, and Destin Boland is currently a lap down. This time by it'll be 2 laps to go. This season, Mazda has been winless. Nick Gunther, Anthony McCurry, Autumn Brooks, who's making her 21st start on the season here this afternoon, all have been shut out of victory lane in the first 34 races of the season. But Nick Gunther is now only 1 lap away from breaking that streak and putting himself back in victory circle. He came into this race 17 points out of the points lead. He was the cut line driver, 4th in the standings. He didn't have to win, but he's going to. Back-to-back victories in back-to-back seasons here at Rockingham. Nick Gunther is going to take the checkered flag here this afternoon at North Carolina Speedway. He will win his way into the Final Four to compete for the championship in 1 week's time in the Irish Hills of Michigan. He will be joined by Daniel Voiles, who won a couple of weeks ago at Boston. And if my math is correct, it looks like a couple more Mustangs in the form of R.J. Bishop and Alexander Rowe will point their way into the Final Four as well. First time, I believe, I'll have to check, but I believe it's the first time for all 4 drivers that they are in the Final Four to compete for the championship here in the Cup Series. And with the exit of Carson Gum, who was in a must-win situation, we are guaranteed we are going to go 8 for 8 in a different driver winning the championship here on the Cup side. Standings are official. Nick Gunther, his first win on the season, and what a big one it is, as he will double down here at Rockingham. Came in the defending winner, goes out the defending winner, locking himself a spot in the playoffs. Caleb Fogler, who led a race-high 67 laps, is going to bring it home in second. Third place will be Nathan Ormond. Great run for him. I'm just double-checking on some of these drivers because remember I mentioned that we saw in the Light Series race, drivers worked their way from the back of the pack to the front. Yeah, I thought so. Nathan Ormond started this race from 40th and finished on the podium position. So if I next season end up saying that Rockingham is a tough track to pass at, you can't make your way to the front, call me out, because apparently drivers have proved here on both the Lights and the Cup Series side that it is indeed possible. Quentin Moore, great run for him, going to bring it home in 4th place. He started 21st this afternoon. Kyler Sustre started this race from 29th, and he'll complete the top 5. Cole Deaver will bring it home in 6th. The Mazdas, how about Nick Gunther with a win? Anthony McCrory there in 7th. Benjamin Snyder will bring it home in 8th, so a couple of the Blue Oval Automotive Ford Mustangs performed well today. Laura Chung in 9th, and Dylan Poteet, Carson Gum. We saw them up at the front in the top 5 for a good portion of this race. They got shuffled out to finish in 10th and 11th. Subsequently, Carson Gum will be eliminated from the playoffs. Charles Sanford finished 12th. Sanford was the last car on the lead lap when that caution came out. He was in danger. He was a few laps away from being put a lap down. He battled back to finish top 15. Well done to him. Bryce Egan is going to get Rookie of the Race as he'll finish 13th with Eric Sadler right behind him in 14th. So Sadler finishes ahead of both Eric Monaco and Summer Henson. I believe Daniel Bouchard finished between them, and so I believe Eric Sadler is going to potentially have a mathematical shot of making it a 3-driver fight for Rookie of the Year next week at Michigan. And R.J. Bishop, 15th place. Great run for him after starting 41st. That should be enough points for him to advance into the Final Four. You take a look here at the rest of the drivers and their situations during the course of this race, specifically the playoff drivers. We mentioned Carson Gum. It was a must-win situation for him. He wasn't able to find victory lane, so he's eliminated. Reggie Fogelman. He wasn't in a must-win situation, but he did have to finish at least in the top 10, top 15. Did not do that. 27th where he finished. He's eliminated. Jack Mitchell, he came into this race. A lot of drivers had some issues ahead of him in the point standings. We saw Rowe fall off here late. We saw Destin Bolin fall off here and fall a lap down. It was an opportunity for him to capitalize. Going back to that restart, somehow he got shuffled up to the high side, was in the wall through 1 and 2, never was able to recover, finishes 28th, so Mitchell will be eliminated. And then Destin Bolin, 4-time winner on the season, got trapped a lap down, never was able to get that lap back, 41st place for him. he will not be advancing into the Final Four either. And how about Ryan Brommer? 1 week removed from getting the victory at Daytona for his second win of the season, dead last here this afternoon at Rockingham. He, Bolin, and Qualls finishing off the lead lap. All 42 cars, though, managed to make it to the conclusion of this race. 39 of them on the lead lap, and only one caution, not only today, but the entirety of the weekend. Good long run green flag racing. It is a driver's racetrack, and that is why it is in the position it is in here. The final race to set up the championship for at Michigan. Well, looking at it, it looks like I am indeed in the statement that I made for Nick Gunther, for Daniel Voiles, for RJ Bishop, and for Alexander Rowe. All four of them, for the first time in their careers, will advance into the Final Four to compete for the championship. So congratulations to them. Who you got? Who you got for the title? Are you Team Gunther? Are you Team Voiles? Are you Team Rowe? Or are you Team Bishop? Those four drivers are going to be your Final Four. One of them is going to be the new champion here of Season 8. Cannot wait to see how it culminates. It's one Mazda and 3 Fords. The Blue Ovals looking like they're in pretty good shape, and trying to remember back, who was the last Ford driver to win a championship? Was it Jordan Lopez? I'm going to have to check on that. I think it might very well have been Jordan Lopez, the last driver that drove a Ford to championship victory lane. That was back in Season 3. Season 4 was Carson Gum. That was a Chevy. Season 5 was a Chevrolet out of S3 Motorsports. Season 6 was a Chevy out of S3 Motorsports. And last season was a Dodge. So yeah, Season 3. 5 seasons ago, the last time that a Ford ended up winning the championship, and a Mazda has never won the championship here in the Duracell Next Gen Cup Series. So going to be some interesting storylines going into next week for sure. Thank you all for tuning in to today's race and this weekend here from Rockingham. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a like. Subscribe to become part of the crew today. We have shown your full finish results. You're now looking at your playoff standings. Remember, Voiles is locked in with his victory at Boston. Gunther's locked in with his win here today. So if either one of those two here on these point standings are below 4th in the standings, you go by the top 2 highest points drivers that did not win during this round, which, if I'm not mistaken, are going to be Bishop and Rowe. But thank you all for tuning into this race. We'll see you guys next week. We've got pole day qualifying on Friday at 3 for the lights drivers. We've got pole day qualifying Saturday at 1 for the cup drivers, and then we start to determine some championships here. As on the light side, it's going to be Eli Bright, Juan Garcia, Cody Majorek, and Cam Wright Jr. They'll fight it out amongst themselves along with the other light series drivers on the track at Michigan next Saturday at 1 p.m. And then join us right back here on Sunday at, that's at 3 p.m. for the light series drivers, green flag. And then join us back here on Sunday at 1 p.m. for Rowe versus Bishop versus Voiles versus Gunther, as we will see who will be the Season 8 NNSCRA Duracell Next Gen Cup Series champion. But thank you for tuning in to the coverage this weekend. We'll see you guys next week as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of NNSCRA TV, offline racing at its best.
The following has been a presentation of NNSCRA TV for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the consent of the NNSCRA is prohibited. NNSCRA would like to thank all of our loyal fans, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.